My job is to make sure that we are truly featuring someone for who they say they are, to make sure that they really are the top producer and a rising star agent. Some people could claim they're top producers, and when I looked them up, they hadn't really sold anything in the last 2 to 3 years. And so there are agents and brokers who can actually pay into the top broker position. Like there are these companies out there that say, hey, you want to be the top, or listed as the top broker, just give us $500 a month, whatever it is. But we do it the right way. We make sure that they're vetted. So to be featured on the cover, you have to have minimum over 10 million in sales. And through our events, we connect the communities. And so that's really our mission. And again, it's just bridging the gap between vendors, brokers, agents, and everyone in between. My name is Sheana. I'm the publisher of Westchester Real Producers. We are a real estate publication that represents the entire greater New York region. We basically write features each month on top producers, agents, brokers, vendors, and we highlight their stories because they are the facilitators to most transactions. And so our mission is to connect vendors and brokers in the tri-state area.
So can you elaborate on that just a little bit? When you say, first of all, it's a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on the channel.
My pleasure.
I skipped the formalities because I was just actually very intrigued by the conversation and what you guys are like what you do. So when you say you're connecting vendors and the vendors and agents, you said, so what does that actually mean?
Yeah, so brokers, agents, so they have to be within the top 500. So we basically feature the top 500 brokers and agents in a market of 500. So that is basically, it reaches from Westchester, New York City, Connecticut, parts of North Jersey. And it is basically our thank you to the top producers for what they do, because as you know, brokers and agents are the facilitators to most transactions. And so this is our way of showing their accomplishments. And what we do through our events, every quarter we host networking events to bring everyone together to connect. And so oftentimes I'll meet with vendors. So vendors could basically be your architects, your interior designers, your developers, your carpet, flooring contractors. And oftentimes I'll say, oh, I've heard of so and so, and I would love the opportunity to meet with them because we see how successful they are. And obviously, everybody wants to connect and do business. So, what we do is we do have a vetting system. For our agents and brokers, they do have to be within the top tier of production. And we rely heavily on referrals also for our vendors. And so, you have to have a good reputation within the community.
So if I'm understanding correctly, your target market, your demographic of readers is the vendors more so. So for example, like you said, the architects and stuff, like the architects, the
Well, our target are really the top producing agents and brokers. And what we do is every month we write features on them. And so it's kind of like a little bit of both. We feature vendors, brokers, and agents, but our targets are always the brokers and the agents because they really are the facilitators to most of these transactions.
you've used that phrase a few times.
Yeah,
Can you elaborate on what that means?
sure. So, for example, you buy a house, right? And you're working directly with a broker, whether they're a top producer or not. Oftentimes, you're going to close on your property. You're going to need a general contractor. You're going to need a home inspector, obviously. No home is perfect. They're always going to need renovations. You're going to need, at some point, a roofing contractor. You're going to need a flooring contractor. And so what we do is we bridge that gap. So just going back in my history, I was always a connector, a networking butterfly. And so I feel like it definitely was my mission to be a connector. And so essentially through our publication, it's not just highlighting the features of, these top producing brokers and agents and vendors, it really is connecting the community. And so this community of the greater New York area is a pretty large community, as you know. And so we do have a reach of over 180 markets. And that's what we do. We basically bridge that gap so that everyone could build business relationships. Because when you get to know someone, you learn to trust that person. And when you trust that person, you're going to want to do business with that person.
Hmm.
And so our mission is really just to connect everyone and build business
Hmm.
relationships.
When you say you're in 180 markets, how do you define a market?
Well, the real estate market, so in terms of Westchester County encompasses a large part of the greater New York. So we are in a market of 500. That's what it's deemed as. Some markets are 300 markets. The market of 500 is what we work with. And so I guess I'll backtrack a little bit with Real Producers. Real Producers, the company itself has been around for over 10 years. It is a publishing company. and it's represented by counties and districts. And so the district that I own is the Greater New York,
Mm.
Westchester region. And so everyone within that district, which it reaches Connecticut, North Jersey, parts of New York City, and Westchester. And so it's a pretty far reach.
Yeah, very interesting. Does it
Yeah.
reach the island or no?
I mean, well, the funny thing is people are interchangeably. Like, so for example, right now I'm working with a broker who she's pretty big on Long Island, but she's also got developments going on in the Bronx, Yonkers, and Westchester. And so, but she's Long Island based.
Mm. So just cut straight to the chase. I'm curious, how does the company make money?
So our publication, basically supported by the vendors and the sponsors who support the publication.
Mm.
And that's a great question. So we do offer advertising of different ad sizes, but it's not just the advertising. We encourage people to share their stories because, so for example, when you receive a publication, which we're happy to send you, one of
I'd
our
love to,
issues, I
yeah.
will, and we'll, I'm happy to feature the
Oh,
podcast as
thank you.
well.
That'd be
Yeah,
great.
absolutely. It would be
That
my
would be really
pleasure.
great.
What we do is we encourage people to share their stories because this publication literally gets distributed to the top 500 market in that region. And so that's our marketing strategy. So it gets distributed. We have a list, we follow the MLS, we have our own metrics for the company, and that's how we determine who really is in that top tier of the 500. So in a market of 500 in Westchester, there are over 125,000 brokers and agents. And
All
so
right,
it's
so
super,
you're gonna have to break this down a little bit for me
yeah.
because I'm not super familiar with this industry, and I'm super intrigued by what you're saying. But some of it's going right over my head.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Sorry.
I'm just being honest with you, and I want to ask questions that are relevant, but I want to make sure I'm following.
Of course. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
when you say a market of 500, um, it's what is the actual market? 500 what? Because at first I assumed 500 people, but then
Real
obviously
estate agents and brokers.
but then there's 125,000.
So, in total, between New York City, Westchester, so the greater New York area, it's like if you look at it geographically on a map, right? There are 125,000 agents registered,
Okay,
working, and not all of them are working agents or brokers. They're just listed. So what happens in real estate, there's a high turnover rate because what happens is the first 3 to 6 months, that really makes or breaks someone.
really
Yeah.
interesting.
So what we find often is that I actually did it myself. I actually got my license and I ended up using it for 2 months, and then I got an opportunity to work for a general contractor, so I didn't even use my license.
Mm.
And this is like a common theme because it's super, super difficult in the beginning when you get sponsored by a broker. So right out the gate, you have to get sponsored by a broker. You have to generate those leads all on your own, and it's very, very difficult. So most people, I don't wanna say they don't have the chutzpah, but they just don't have really the courage to push through because it's a very difficult industry to make it in. And once you finally land your first deal, you close your first deal, that could be 8 months of no income. And so most people are like, this is not for me. I need money right now. And so if you get into real estate, it really is for the long haul. And so most people, once they get their license, most agents don't really survive past the 6 months. The ones that do are the ones that end up becoming very
So
successful.
now, if I'm following correctly, there's of the 125,000 agents,
Registered.
registered agents, as opposed to what, unregistered agents, or
No, that's just what's registered in the system. So
okay,
there are in the greater New York region, there are over 125,000 registered agents. It doesn't mean that they're active.
okay.
Yeah,
But now
that they're actively
those
using
fall
your list.
into you're saying 500 brokers or
Right. So out of the top 500, top 100, top 50, it is my job every month to feature the top producing brokers and agents. So in order to be featured on the cover,
so out of
yeah,
the
500.
500 of the top of the 125,000.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. I apologize if I didn't
No,
make
no,
that.
no, no. I want to make sure I'm
Yeah.
following properly.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So,
Yeah. It's super competitive.
I mean, I don't know what the percent of that is.
It's
A
hard to
tenth of
know.
a percent, maybe. You
Yeah.
know,
Pretty much.
I mean,
Yeah.
1% would be, I don't know, gosh,
Like 10,000. Yeah. Like,
that'd be 10. So
right.
like 1,100, right? That's
So
so
my job every month is very
so it's
difficult
half a
because
percent,
not only do, so
4%.
for example, some people could claim they're top producers, and I will not name names, but while I'm interviewing people, someone said, "Oh, I'm the top producer. You should feature me." And when I looked them up, there's a way to determine that, and they hadn't really sold anything in the last 2 to 3 years. And so there are agents and brokers who can actually pay into the top broker position. Like there are these companies out there that say, hey, you want to be the top, or listed as the top broker, just give us $500 a month, whatever it is. And there are, and hey, you know what? Everybody's got to make a living, but we do it the right way. We make sure that they're vetted. We have our metric system through the company. We follow the MLS, who has the top sales. So to be featured on the cover, you have to have minimum over 10 million in sales plus
Per year?
per year.
Hmm.
Yeah. So we're featuring brokers like Bob Knackel. I mean, he is the top, he's like the godfather of multifamily residential real estate. And so that's the type of, caliber of people
And
we bring.
and I'm sure it's probably public knowledge of how much he's doing
Oh,
a year.
100%.
So
Yeah.
how much is he selling a year?
Billions,
Billions
billions in residential. Yeah.
in the city?
City. Yeah. Mostly in the city. Yeah.
I mean, that number is it's
Insane.
insane. Like it's pretty. But then again, like so. Okay, so my question for you is: if you've spoken to a lot of these uh,
Agents.
agents
Yep.
and
Brokers.
companies and stuff, what makes somebody like him? Like how did somebody get to
So that
from
status.
from selling a $400,000 home in the backwoods of Long Island to now selling,
Yeah.
granted there could be like family, like it's 6 generations of selling, right? But like what differentiates I sell one house a year or one house every 4 months at $400,000, so I'm selling billions of dollars in real estate.
I really think it depends on what your goal is in real estate because it's a big umbrella, and I think it really just depends on what you want to focus on. Like there are brokers who just focus on the sellers, there are brokers who just focus on the buyers, and there are brokers who want to take their real estate business to the next level if they're in residential and now they've entered into the commercial space, which is a completely different animal. In the residential market, you're more hand holding because it's very personal.
Mm,
Commercial real estate tends to be more transactional. And so I think it just depends on what that person's goal is.
mm. That's a great answer. I mean, in any industry, you could talk about the music industry.
Yeah.
Somebody's goal could be, I just want to make a living, and a living could be $100,000, or somebody could be making $100 million,
Right.
and you're still doing music. It's just at very different capacities and very different levels and at very different income levels. So,
Yeah.
what do you find as the differentiator of somebody that's, obviously you said their drive and level, but like
Sure.
in goal, but are they working? Are they just that much smarter, that much better at selling? What are you finding a couple of the differentiators to
That's a
be?
good question. So it's multifaceted.
Of
It really
course.
is. I think COVID changed everything in real estate, especially on the construction end, because the last 10 years I've spent working with a general contractor in New York City, and we've done everything from commercial ground up development to total gut renovations of brownstones on Park Avenue. And they're so different in themselves. And working with these agents and brokers, I think it really depends how hungry you really are, right? Because prior to COVID, attaining those leads was a lot easier. There was more in person, more face to face. It was just, you have your reputation, of course, but you didn't have to really go out there and try to hustle for new leads. And COVID happened, it shut down everything, and it forced us to really rethink how we're doing business. So, were less networking events available,
Hmm.
right? So everything was virtual, and people had to get creative with the way they were generating leads. So I
Hmm.
really think it just depends what your goal is in real estate. Some people are just content with selling the $500,000 residential homes in a suburb, and they're fine with that. They don't really care to expand into the mixed use residential market, which is where everything is going right now. There are people that are taking advantage. So I'll give an example.
Was that mixed use residential?
Yeah, and so what happened was COVID destroyed the entire commercial real estate sector. Like most of these buildings in New York City were defaulting, and they still are. And so, in order to save themselves, what they did was they rezoned. So during COVID, everything shut down, and then you had people filing for rezoning, right, from commercial into mixed use residential. I'll give you an example. On 6th Avenue and 32nd Street, there was the Manhattan Mall. Did you ever go to the Manhattan Mall? No, most people didn't. It was just there. I hate to say that. But
That's funny.
they've rezoned it now for a condominium, for
Hmm.
residential, completely residential. So now people are going to be living in what used to be the Mall of Manhattan.
Hmm. So mixed use residential could be essentially all if you drive down a main street in Northport, for example, right here, you have a store on storefront on the bottom, and then somebody living up top.
Exactly. And so in New York City, Westchester, you're seeing it on a different level, but you still have the mixed use developments going on.
Hmm.
But in New York City, mostly you're seeing basically a commercial office space that now will be converted into half hospitality, half residential
When you say
um,
hospitality, what does that mean?
hotels.
Very interesting.
Yeah, so there was a lot of that going on as well since COVID. The hotel sector just got hit really hard, and the hospitality sector, and so they converted a lot of the units into residential units.
Very interesting.
Yeah, it's a lot of things they don't really talk about in the
Yeah,
public eye.
absolutely. I mean,
Yeah,
I was curious, very curious about what was happening to these buildings. I mean, especially when a lot of these places were like, "Hey, we're going virtual and we're going to sell our building or sell our shares in the building." And it's like, and you're talking like somebody
yeah,
that's been there for 30 years and has 6 floors on a building, and now they're like, "Well, we need 2,000 square feet now instead of 200,000 square feet."
right.
And it's like,
Yeah.
well, who's going to fill this? Because why would somebody need to fill this?
Part of that is to fix the housing problem. So most property owners realized that during COVID, most people worked from home. They were still outputting production, but now they don't have to pay the leases, which was a significant cost to the business,
Sure.
right, to the company. And so what they realized was that they can still have production for their company and have people work remote most of the time, maybe come into the office space 1 or 2 days out of the week. But um, those office units basically sat vacant. And so what they realized was that they're paying enormous around amount of rent, and
Using it part time.
yeah, and so a lot of the rezoning came in to convert it into mixed use residential, and because most of those office spaces weren't even 50% occupied in New York City.
What are those businesses doing? The ones that would send their employees home for 4 days a week, and you have to come in one day a week, and like, what are they downsizing, or how does that work? Like downsizing the
The
lease,
company,
no, the lease, like with the footprint that they're taking up, because I guess you could rotate employees instead. If you have 10,000 employees, you don't need 10,000 spots anymore. You need maybe
right,
3,000 or 2,000.
right.
So are they reneging the leases, or what are you finding that happens?
What we've seen is that a lot of buildings defaulted. And so they basically sold for nothing. And someone got the opportunity to buy in and then put up half residential, half hospitality. You have things like that going on like pretty
What a
often.
time to be alive
Yeah,
if you had the money for that.
the truth. It's
Unbelievable.
the
So
truth.
what were you seeing? I guess, do you see all the numbers of what things are selling for in your industry? Like a building that would have been millions of dollars sold for.
Like a building that would have been 100 million probably sold for 20 million, like nothing, like 10 million, 9 million. I mean, really, like nothing.
But now, are they worth that now anymore? Like,
That's a good question.
so yeah, cool. It was
That's
worth, a
because they
hundred
have to put
million
an
before.
enormous amount into
Well,
renovating and
that
rezoning, getting the permits, restructuring, because not every building that's commercial can be zoned for residential. So there's a lot of that going on. But this is supposed to be the fix for more housing. So we'll see what happens. But in a demographic like Westchester, you're finding more brokers and agents getting involved in development projects, residential development projects, so townhomes, condominiums,
from the ground up, you're saying though.
mhm,
So what is a
single
broker
family,
and agent's
multifamily.
role in that?
I think they're just taking advantage of an opportunity because it presents itself, and it's just another way to generate income. To be, yeah, more in the property management side of things.
Oh, I don't follow. In what sense?
Yeah. So, for example, you never really, I mean, you would see this, but not as prevalent as it is now since COVID. Most brokers and agents are, well, I would say more brokers. I take that back. Most
A
brokers,
broker would be like Daniel Gale, correct or
yeah,
no? Okay.
yep, yeah. So people like to use the term realtor, but realtors are only allotted for the people that are actually, for the agents that are actually registered with the National Association of Realtors. Those are the only people that are actually allowed to use that term, but people use it often, just loosely. But not everyone who's a broker is a realtor or an agent or realtor. I
Okay. Very
don't know if that
interesting.
makes sense. But basically, what you're seeing in an area like Westchester is a lot of brokers getting involved in the development side of townhomes, development sites that they own. So you never really saw that before.
So, for example, just to throw names out there, if hypothetically Daniel Gale will be in now and a part of building this townhome.
Mhm.
So now her agents that agent will
would
then
sell the
sell the
properties.
wow, that's very
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah,
And that's
that's
why the
happening now.
benefit of you connecting all these people is because very, very
Exactly.
interesting. So
Yeah.
like the people that are actually the GCs that are building, you connecting Daniel Gale
With
or
the real estate
whoever, Compass
attorneys,
or yeah,
right? Because you need a
very
real
interesting.
estate attorney for every transaction. You're gonna need a home inspector. You're gonna need your general contractors. You're gonna need your architects to design the space and sometimes retrofit the space. The architect is vital, whether if it's residential or commercial, because regardless, they have to come up with the blueprints. All of these moving parts really help the transactions go smoother
Hmm.
and just flow
Hmm.
on a timely, because you never think time is money, right? In real estate. I hate to say that, but it's the
Uh,
truth.
It's in everything,
And
dude. You want to get your kids, you want to go out to dinner and get your kids babysitting. Well, you're paying this for that time. It's like
it's true.
time
That's
is
a
money in
good
everything,
analogy.
every
But it's the
aspect of life.
truth.
Time is money.
Yeah, and the foundation is key because having a solid foundation of, real estate professionals that you can rely on, that matters. That is huge. And unfortunately, in real estate, certain parts just don't have the great reputation. And so what we do is we vote and everyone is voted and vetted in who are featured in the publication. And that's because it ultimately is our reputation. For example, if you're an agent and you say to me, "Hey Shayna, I need the best GC you have." Okay, and if I refer you a GC that I don't know, and I don't know their reputation, I don't know the the level of insurance they carry, and I just say, "Hey, this is a GC coming," anything could go wrong, and ultimately it's my reputation. You're never going to come back to me for a referral.
Hmm.
So we do require that, obviously there's a certain level with the vendors that we refer that they have to have a good reputation in the community. They're very well liked, and they're just good people.
Hmm.
That matters,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely. We spoke briefly about my background in the music industry and how I had the YouTube channel. In that YouTube channel, I had a music related podcast where I did interview different music industry professionals and just where they got to how they got to where they were in the industry, what they do in the industry. The overwhelming theme, in particularly related to that, was all about relationships. And they say eh, everything they could have spent 100,000 hours practicing or 100,000 hours doing the mixes and stuff, but the only reason that they were where they are is because of the relationships and relationship and through
It's true.
and on a different like a deeper level when they kind of broke that down a little further. It's like people have to like working with you. You could be a
Absolutely.
great blank construction worker, mix engineer, whatever industry you're talking about.
Absolutely.
But if nobody likes being around you, they're not going to call you back. They'll find
Absolutely.
somebody that they like. The quality might not be as strong, for example, but they are willing to sacrifice the quality for the quality of the person, quality of the work for the
100%.
quality of the person.
Yeah, for us, it's quality over quantity,
Mm,
100%.
mm-hmm,
We That's our mission, is to make sure that you are not only connected with somebody who is confident in what they do, but
mm,
that they are just genuinely a good person and that they are passionate about what they do and that they have a great reputation because all of that matters. It's going to come back as a reflection on
sure,
us.
absolutely,
Sure.
yeah. I mean, we spoke super briefly with the podcast about how we were joking, but I was kind of serious actually. I had considered for a while offering hair and makeup for the guests because so many guests would be like, "Oh, I have a hair and
Yeah.
makeup appointment," and they were doing it for the podcast anyway. I'm like,
Yes.
"Well, how can I?" And then, but somebody else was like, "Yeah, but now you're on the hook for if something goes wrong with that beautician, they cancel, they're late, anything.
Mm,
It's your reputation." I'm
yeah.
like, you know what? It's not something I want to stake my reputation on,
Of
but
course.
it's the same exact thing you're talking
That's
about.
a good point. I hope I answered it. I hope I didn't
Yeah, you're fine.
stutter
You're doing
because
fine.
yeah, that's
Don't
good.
overthink it.
You're so natural.
Oh, I've done a lot of these. I've done a
Yeah.
lot. I guess I forget how unnatural it becomes. But it's to me, it's become second nature because I mean, I've done 85 of these episodes. I've done
Wow.
125 on the other
Oh
podcast.
my
Like,
gosh.
and then I've filmed 7,000 YouTube videos. Like, it's just
Wow. That's
I'm on camera a
amazing.
lot, so I forget, and I apologize then that I forget that
No, that's
people
great.
aren't on camera as often as I am.
Jacob,
So
thank you for creating this platform because this is really wonderful. It is.
thank
It's
you.
it's it's amazing that you're doing this because it really is helping people get the word out about their business.
That's the goal. The best responses I get are somebody texting me, for example, whether it be I've had well, I'll reference a couple of the previous guests, like Reaching Hands
Okay.
group, which was like a family. She's like a mediator for like divorces or abusive homes and stuff like that. And
Wow, that's heavy.
but she's
Yeah.
had clients reach out to her from the
Yeah.
podcast, or like just
Wow.
and like that. I'm like, to me
It's
that's
huge.
the best thing. Or people saying, "Oh, I saw your business on the podcast, and I would love to," and then they text me because I'm like,
Yes.
that's the best. I love that. Like that. There's nothing that makes me happier than seeing that.
Absolutely. You're tangibly affecting the lives of people, and that's
Yeah,
amazing.
exactly.
It
That's the
really
best.
is such a great thing. We
Thank
need
you.
more of that in this world. Helping people
That's
help,
fair.
because
That's
you're helping
fair.
yourself. Well, that's what we believe. I mean, you're basically helping
Mm,
yourself while helping people. Because ultimately, what's the point of what we do in life if we're not tangibly affecting the lives of others? And
I
that's,
agree. Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
no matter what it is that you're doing, I think that's why for us, like for me, this was a very personal endeavor to take on because my background was all medicine, surgery. I wanted to really help people in that way. And, there's a saying, you plan, God laughs, right? It's the
I'm
truth.
living proof of that. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's the truth. You plan, and then one day, nope, God says, nope, you're going in this direction. And
Trust me,
I don't know. It's
I'm still trying to understand that one, but I wanna hear more of your story.
sure.
You referenced earlier in the conversation. You referenced that you're a networking butterfly. What does that mean? But then also you just referenced like the medical industry. So tell me a little bit more about your backstory.
So the term, I'm sorry, I laugh at that because I was always called, nicknamed a butterfly by one of the surgeons I worked for. He was like, "You're a butterfly," because one day I'm here, I'm there, I'm there. When I was 18 years old, my aunt had a nonprofit organization, and so my very first networking experience was in Virginia, Norfolk, Virginia, and my aunt had an organization called Children of Refugees. So basically, she would bring children here with temporary visas to get major medical treatments.
Wow.
Yeah, she saved a bunch of lives.
Wow.
Yeah, so like heavy stuff, like cleft palate surgeries, and she had a team of 12 doctors who would donate their time and services for
Wow.
the kids. And so my uncle was a developer in Virginia Beach, and he developed several properties, big ones, in Virginia and Las Vegas. And long story short, my first networking experience was at the Marriott in Norfolk, and there was like over 100 people there. And my uncle goes, "You're the bait," and so
Wait, he said what?
I was the bait
Oh,
for my aunt. Because I was a little tiny petite little thing, and she just threw me into the room. She's like, "All right, this is what you say, this is what you do," and that was it. And it was my very first networking event, and I haven't shared that with anybody. I rarely share
yeah,
that
I love
story,
it. It's
very
great.
rarely. But it was, when I think back, I laugh because it really, I mean, as nervous as I was, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't even know what networking was, but it was right out of high school and I was about to go into college, and it was just overwhelming because you have drinks, food, and then a lot of people that just want to network, and it was just a really great experience.
Mm.
And so I ended up getting a ton of referrals from my
Wow,
aunt
that's great.
that day. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like over 30 referrals just from
Wow,
networking.
that's great.
But it taught me a lot.
Yeah.
And so going forward, I basically network with many networking organizations like NIOP, Metro NYC, the Chamber of Commerce, BNI Group. And these are wonderful circles because these are very serious business professionals that are looking to just connect, build business relationships. And it's a lot of what we do with the publication.
Hmm. So that's fascinating with your first introduction to networking. But now, so did you stay in that medical industry for a while, and then you
I
worked for her,
did.
and then what was the transition to
Yeah,
this
the
real estate?
nonprofit was a wonderful experience because it taught me a lot of um, the values and principles of philanthropic work, and how you can just, by connecting people with others, how you could really change the lives of someone. And so in that regard, it gave me a real insight view to just building business relationships in general
Hmm.
in that regard. I went to SUNY Farmingdale as a bioscience student. So
As a what student?
bioscience student,
Bioscience.
yeah, at SUNY Farmingdale. And I absolutely loved it. I breathed it, I lived it. It was my life. I was going on to medical school,
Hmm.
and I had a paid internship for basically working in genetic research. And so I'm not proud of it, but we did test on animals. And so I actually worked for a private laboratory in Bayshore, so not too far from here. And we basically tested antigens. And there was a sequence of testing periods. So we would get batches of animals from a farm in New Jersey. And I'm going back to like early 2000, like 2006, 2007. At that time, there were different regulations in place, and those no longer exist because you can't just, it's too much to get into. But
What kind of animals? I'm just curious.
yeah, guinea pigs and mice, and they are incredibly intelligent.
Hmm.
And so we would get them, we would test them. If they passed the blood serum serology test, then we would start our experiments.
What kind of
Um,
testing?
Antigen testing.
I
So
mean,
I'm sorry, antigens are infectious disease. So it could be bacteria, viruses. The only viruses we obviously were not allowed to legally test were HIV. HIV components are allotted to a laboratory in Manhattan. There's one HIV testing center, and they use chimpanzees, unfortunately.
oh wow.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a whole other world of yeah. But so I struggled with it because I loved the work that we were doing, the data sequencing, the DNA testing. But it was hard because I love animals. I have 2 dogs and a horse, and
Wow.
yeah,
Really? You still
and
have the
so
horse?
yeah, and so I'm an
It's my
animal
dream to
freak.
have
I
a
love
horse. I
animals.
would
Oh,
love. I
they're the
actually
best.
just filmed a video. Sorry to interrupt you because I
No,
was just
please. Seriously.
kind of joking. I drove a truck, and in the video I was driving the truck. I was also stuck in traffic driving into Queens or Brooklyn at the time. And I filmed the video. I was like, look, I just got this new truck and it has 400 horsepower, but like, I just want to give it all away and have 1 horsepower and just be riding the horseback on it. So
It's a
I'm
great skill
so,
to have.
it's very
It
cool that
is.
you have a horse.
Yeah.
Sorry, but that
No,
caught
it's
my attention.
okay.
So continue.
I'm just a big animal lover.
Sure.
I have a canine that was rescued. He's a Dutch Shepherd. He's an incredible, just amazing. And then I have a Shih Tzu poodle,
Hmm.
and she's the boss of him.
Yeah, I believe it.
But yeah, back to the animal testing was very difficult because we would test them with we would inject them with the antigen, and then so you know the rule of thumb that basically you have to wait 2 weeks for the cold. If it doesn't pass, then you have to go to your doctor. There's a reason for that because 2 weeks is enough for your body's immune system to attack whatever antigen that's making you sick. Now, if it goes longer than that, then there's usually something compromised in your immune system. And so we get that data from the animals that we test, from the antigen testings that we, yeah, unfortunately, I hate to say it.
It's a weird balance though. Like,
And
because
is,
how else would we have gotten this information if it
I
wasn't for?
know.
So it's like I don't know it's easy to say it's wrong, to be honest with you. It's very easy to say this is wrong, but then
Yeah, it is.
what is the alternative?
There is no alternative. And as much as we could like speculate and kind of do these hypotheses, there is really no alternative other than humans themselves, but they deem that unethical unless it's voluntary. And so the animals don't really get a choice. And so at the end
Do you think
of,
that
yeah,
the system could work on voluntary humans, or is
that's
it just not enough of
tough.
them?
That's tough because most of the times we don't know the implications of um, testing until so the reason why we test on mice and guinea pigs is because we are 76% genetically identical to a mice and a guinea pig,
Really?
and ape chimpanzees are like 98
That was my follow-up question.
98%. There's only 2% of a difference that separates us
Which is
genetically.
what?
It's crazy. Just
What it,
2%
and do you know what that
of our
2% is?
DNA.
Like, oh wow,
Yeah,
interesting.
that's it. Just 2% of our DNA. That's what sets us apart from an ape or a chimpanzee.
Very interesting.
Yeah, but mice, guinea pigs were 76% genetically identical. So the point is that whatever happens to them in those experiments will most likely transpire in us. And so that's why they really like the National Institute of Biotechnology, where most of the data was submitted to. Most anything that's consumed by humans, anything like products, chemicals, unfortunately, diseases, anything that we can contain into our bodies, it's tested on animals. It's tough.
It is tough, but
It is.
I don't know that there's an alternative unless you
Yeah.
just
Oh, I would cry. I would seriously. So there's only 2 ways you can and you have to euthanize them, whether they passed or
interesting.
fail. You have to euthanize them because they've been injected with chemicals and antigens, unfortunately, which makes them infectious. And so we would either cervically dislocate, and I'll spare you the details, or we would put them in a tube and CO2 gas them. And so every single time I would just be in tears because there's a,
I'm sorry, you have to explain the first one. The cervical dislocate is breaking the
yeah,
neck, or
you hold the head and you rip the tail out.
really?
Yeah, it literally severs their spinal cord within seconds. So it's supposed to be the most humane way, but I don't think it's humane because you're literally holding them down and you're pulling their tail out. Yeah, it's
Wow,
terrible.
interesting.
Yeah, I
But
know,
that's
probably
more.
not good for public
It's the
health.
truth, and I think people. It is what it is, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so what happened was there's incubation phase, so you inject them, whatever you're testing, you run data, serum analysis, and then you wait. There's an incubation phase that you have to wait. And during that downtime, you just watch them and they interact with each other like they're children. It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
They really are so incredibly smart.
Mm.
They're smarter than we give them credit for. I
Trust
don't
me,
know.
I manage a small farm, and we have a
You do?
tremendous we
Oh, wow. So you know.
yeah. But that being
Oh,
said, oh, not animal farm, but like vegetable farm. But that being said, I
wow.
recognize how incredibly intelligent the animals are with how uh, determined they are, and they keep finding new ways to mess with my crop. So trust me, I
They
understand that
still find a way.
they do, and
They
they
will.
will. Um,
Aw.
and again, we'll move on from here, but I do I sympathize or empathize, sympathize maybe I think is a better word,
Mhm.
with the animals, and but I just don't know. I don't. I'm saying, I guess I'm not saying I condone or not don't condone or just what the other alternative would be like, condemn it, but it's just like I don't know. I don't. It's hard. It's I find one of my problems with society today is that we are very quick to condemn without an alternative,
Mm.
and that really bothers me. It's like this is wrong. Okay, but then what are we doing differently? And my particularly my mom always instilled in me is you're not allowed to complain unless you have an alternative. And
Mm.
like
Yes,
otherwise there's no point in you complaining. Unless you have a better
absolutely.
answer, then stop complaining.
Absolutely.
And
Or find a
find a
solution.
solution. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Like a better answer. Exactly. So that
100%.
so that's society now is very, very quick to judge and say, this is wrong, you're doing something wrong, but not have any other solution to it. And it's not it's like so then what would you like me to do? So we just stop testing any antigen, have no more like and just let
Yeah,
humanity go where? Like and so it's like that's the
it's true.
and
It's a double-edged sword. It
yeah.
really is. And it's,
Any
yeah.
topic politically we have today, I've people are on both sides are
Yep.
very quick to say you're totally wrong,
Hmm.
and then but not have any other answer for it. And it's just it's bogus.
So it's funny that you say that because during the interview processes that I have with brokers and agents, I do my best not to get political. And when someone catches wind of another broker agent that we're featuring in the publication, it's like all of a sudden, oh, you should know this about that person. And yeah, it's so like reality TV. I hate to say it, but it's the truth.
Oh, how many reality TV shows have they made out of
It's
the
true.
realtors? You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, sure,
I
of
believe it.
course.
I believe it.
It comes out within 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And so I do my best to be objective, but what I find is that there's a common theme exactly to what you were alluding to. I think it's important for people to be accountable for themselves. Like you have to show up. You have nothing to prove to anyone but to yourself at the end of the day. So we can point fingers, we can, you know, there's so many examples I can give with real estate. I guess my point that I'm trying to make is that
Well, people also forget that that you're also human, and if we opened up your closet, all the bones we'd find in your closet, and like
yeah,
it's like, oh, I
yeah.
can't believe that person did that, but it's like, yeah, but like you forget that if I managed you
Mm,
and microscoped you, I'd find some things that people were not thrilled with either. So like
yeah.
it's human nature. We've been like this forever. Like,
Yeah, people are quick to point the finger without really taking accountability
mhm.
for their own actions and
But it's
decisions. I
just
see
now that
that
it's more
a
public.
lot.
We've always been doing this, you know,
Yeah,
but it's just that now it's more public because we have access to way more information.
absolutely.
So it's not like it's happening more, or maybe it is, but it's more so we just have access to
More
it
highlight it,
because
right?
we
Yeah,
see
of
it
course.
more. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, it was happening in newspapers 300 years ago. Like it's still
right. But
happening,
there
but
wasn't a camera there to
exactly
follow
to
it.
see it, and it took 3 months to get
Yeah.
overseas and like blah blah blah. But um, let's pivot back to real estate.
Okay. Yes. Sorry.
No, I kept asking the question. Um, so what exactly is your role in the company?
So, as the owner, publisher of the magazine, my job, a big one, is to make sure that we are truly featuring someone for who they say they are, to make sure that they really are the top producer and a rising star agent. And through our events, we connect the communities. And so that's really our mission. We host events quarterly. And so, March, we are hosting a networking event with over 120 people. And so I'm excited for that. And again, it's just bridging the gap between vendors, brokers, agents, and everyone in between,
Hmm.
just to build business relationships, to get to know one another, to just basically, you know, get to know people so that they can better do business,
Hmm.
because again, when you build that trust with someone and you get
Sure.
to know them, you're going to want to do business with
Yeah.
them. You're going to want to share, you're going to want to have it. Again, it's our reputation,
Sure.
when we give refer because we belong to a very large referral network. So if I send you a referral, I want to make sure that this person really is who they say they
Yeah.
are.
So, with that being your role, do you have people under you, and what are they doing?
Yes, we have an amazing team. So we have a writer, editor, content creator,
Hmm.
2 photographers, phenomenal photographers, super talented.
So I'm assuming that they have to now travel that tri-state area.
Yes, they
That's
do. They travel a lot, and I give that like I'm so
it's a
grateful
lot of
for them.
work.
It
It's a lot
is.
of work.
Yeah,
I
basically
don't
that's
envy
what I
that.
do on a daily basis. I ping pong across Westchester, New York City, Connecticut.
Really?
Oh yeah, every day, every single day. Yeah, because Greater New York encompasses a big region from Connecticut to North Jersey and all in between. I'm literally I like this. If I look at a map, like the Waze map of my,
Yeah.
it's like this. I am literally. We have clients everywhere.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
So,
Same for the photographers.
yeah, yeah.
It's a
And I'm so
hefty load.
grateful to them because they are truly the ones that are bringing this publication together. They, aside from the stories, so what happens is it's a two-part interview. We first set up an in-person meeting, and then we have our team that comes up with a questionnaire. And so with that, we formulate their stories. And before anything is published, we make sure that we have the stories concrete and the photos to match and that they're happy before anything is published. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Very
there's a
interesting.
lot of work on the back end, as you know,
Yeah.
having
Absolutely.
having your company.
Yeah. I mean, I want to. I could ask it after the fact, but I might as well just
Yeah.
include in the conversation. I'm curious. I would love to pick your brain on this. I've had the idea for a long time, since almost the start of this podcast, to convert it into like an actual tangible book, essentially. Like
Oh, I love
essentially,
that.
but I'm trying to figure out the
Oh, that
best
would
way to
be
do it,
amazing.
and that's
That's
real.
right on par with what you're
Exactly.
doing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, that would be great. Have a
And
magazine, like an actual publication.
you think so? I want to hear your interesting. A
Agents
magazine.
are doing this now. Brokers and agents are so again, all because of COVID. So I'm hearing things from all different reasons of why people are doing this now. Agents and brokers are now creating their own publications, their own magazines, their own newsletters. I mean, they've always kind of done it, but now at least 15 agents that I'm working with have their own real estate publication that they're starting.
Hmm.
And it's basically sharing about who they are, the types of contracts they're closing, like what's new, what's hot, what's going on in their communities. And so this makes sense that you have a
So
podcast to
it's
do this.
interesting.
Yeah.
I was going the route, and I want to hear more about your ideas on that. But I was going the route of almost like a coffee table book, of like a
Oh,
hardcover.
I
Like
love that.
the title I had was "Built in New York: 50 Lessons for 50
Oh my
Business
God,
Owners."
I love that.
So
You should trademark that.
that's the goal. Well, once I make so that's the goal
I
essentially. Like,
love
would it be
it.
is I
It's
don't know. I'm
phenomenal.
trying to figure out the best way to go about it.
Jacob, I
So
think that's a great idea.
thank you.
Seriously, I think you should do it.
But like that it would be like this thick, really like luxury style looking book.
I love that, like coffee table.
Yeah, and
Oh,
like
I love that. I would totally have it on my coffee
that's
table.
the thing. But then it would feature the guests, and then
Okay.
maybe I'm trying to, and so if anybody listening has feedback, I'm trying to. I've been thinking about it for months, and I just can't. It's not concrete, Like I haven't figured out the way to do it. Yeah, in fact, I'm already almost at volume 2 when I haven't even put out volume 1 because if I do 50 entrepreneurs, we're over halfway to 100.
Amazing.
So like
Awesome.
unless I do 100 lessons from 100, but that's gonna be a big book. So, but that being said, like I'm not sure if I want to just do it about them as the entrepreneur and just highlight them, or if I do like lessons from the interview kind of thing. Uh, so if you have any feedback or the guests have any feedback, this is an idea that I've been wanting to do for a long time. So
I think that's great insight for the public to see because I think people have
insight in what sense?
I think not that everyone looks for advice, but I think it's just nice to be inspired. I was inspired by so many authors. Growing up, I love reading. I have a whole library
Mm,
in my home of just books, and I love books. That would be such an inspirational book
mm,
because my uncle was a developer, and he used to say, you see that guy with the Lamborghini? I know it's totally off, like kind of like sidetracking, but he would say, like, don't judge that person with a Lamborghini because you don't know what what struggles he had to go through to attain that.
mm-hmm.
And I think like there's a gentleman that has a podcast who he interviews like billionaires. I'm sure you've
Mm-hmm.
seen him,
I
right?
think it's a School of Hard Knocks or
Oh
something.
yeah,
Yeah,
something like that,
yeah.
right? And so those little 10-second tidbits, hey, how did you make $1 billion? I think I think it's just inspiring in
Yeah.
general because and having a book like that would be great because
We'll
like
see.
these little
I
fun
gotta figure
facts
it out.
like I think
Yeah.
people need more inspiration right now
Hmm.
in the world,
Hmm.
especially with the way things are going. I'm not political or anything, but I'm just
No, I
saying
hear you.
like, economically, this is like all across the board a topic of conversation
Yeah.
with people that I have on a daily basis, agents and brokers. They're
Yeah.
worried. People are worried about the direction economically of where we're going. Home buyers are really worried because
Sure.
the truth is, and this is, I'm not making this up, this is just what's going on in the industry. Um, Within the next year and a half to 2 years, if you haven't bought a home, buy one because you've got these big conglomerates that are buying up real estate all over. And so,
Like the
uh,
Black Rocks and stuff.
oh, yeah, yeah, the inventory is, there's a major issue with inventory. And so, you just have a bunch of things going on with rezoning to try to get more housing, but that housing is not to purchase, it's to rent. So, um, if you can get your hands on buying a property within the next year or 2, do it. That's really gonna be
Very
that
interesting.
window's closing.
Very interesting.
Mhm.
And in that year or two, it's because there's going to be no inventory left
No
because of
inventory.
the large
Very
companies.
little, yeah. Yeah, they're being bought up. Private, I'm talking about private residences are being bought up
Yeah,
by big
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was listening. I don't know if it was a large scale thing or a small scale thing, but I heard something that like this could be totally wrong, but something along the lines of like 30% of residential uh, homes are owned by these large corporations. And like when you think about it, and that's I think in America,
Mhm.
like 30%,
Yeah,
three out of every 10 homes are owned by
yeah,
a business like in a,
yeah.
not like a, oh, I own 6 homes and I'm a business. Like I'm saying like they own 6,000 homes kind of
You look
thing.
at the job market, right? The jobs market is not in a good place. Okay. And then you look at the inventory issue, which is like extremely low.
Hmm.
Like there's a major inventory issue. And so you couple that with credit defaults, you couple that with everything else. Most people are just not going to be able to afford to buy anything.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Kind of pivoting now onto the flip side of that, the people that are doing very well, or the people you're
Yes.
you're speaking with. Um, Just throw some numbers out there. The top producers, what does that look like? So you said like the top producer, number one, is like billions of dollars a year. What do
Yeah.
like the top 10 look like?
So the top 10, well, they're different. The metrics are different for agents and brokers.
Okay.
So if we're talking about a rising star agent, we're talking about an agent that has grossed 10 to 20 million in a year. That's a rising star. That's
But
killing. That's
now,
like an agent. I'm sorry.
so yeah, please go continue.
Oh, sorry.
No,
That's like an agent that's closing a $34 million home. That's the caliber that we're looking at. And as
but
far as
is that only one home per year though, or okay?
that's one home,
And
34 million
so when you say 10 to 20 million, that's in gross sales of the
for
home
the year. For
for
the
the
year.
okay.
Mhm. There are some that are closing properties that are 5 million, 10 million, but on an app like on a whole for the year, the rising star agents, we look for anyone who's selling within that range.
Do you think it's harder to sell one $30 million home as opposed to 10 $3 million
It
homes?
depends where you are.
Interesting. So,
Yeah,
but is that a fair comparison though?
sure.
In what sense? Like meaning what? Like there's
Well,
a lot more work, or is it equal work to go to sell a $30 million home versus a 10
no,
$3 millions?
no, it's not. I think it's the I think it's the market that you're looking at. I think it's the it just really depends on your clientele, like that. Like you mentioned, there's a big gap in the back. The gap is getting bigger. So you have the people that have money that could put $25 million in a home renovation, and then you have people that could barely
Sure.
put
Yeah.
together 800,000. And
Yeah.
so that gap is growing. And it's just really wild to see it like firsthand, the people that actually have that caliber of funds
Yeah.
to allocate for a renovation.
Yeah.
And so those agents that have those listings are, they're killing it. It's a very weird time that we're in,
But then I guess kind of piggybacking to that original question I had, how does that agent get there? Like how does somebody go from selling again the $3 million homes, not to the
Yeah,
billions, but
sure.
like to that's selling the $10 million homes? Like what is it? Just hey, is it the
I'll
luck of the draw that they just happen to be in the
I
area,
think it's a
or?
lot of luck. I think it's also the brokerage that you're aligned with.
Mm,
So that really matters because your brokerage,
hmm.
and I'm trying to be fair, but it really does matter. I mean, to sell a property 3 to 5 million is not easy either.
Hmm.
But if you have a good brokerage that has a great reputation, it's going to be easier for you.
And even just
Yeah,
from a simple look, you can see
yeah.
certain brokerages specialize in certain price ranges.
Is it true?
So yeah, that's a very fair point.
It is.
Yeah. Hmm.
That is. It's true.
Well, I really appreciate your time. I want to wrap it up with this one question that I like to ask all my guests, and that is, what do you know now in your career that you wish you knew when you first started out?
I think it's important to be patient with yourself and not compare yourself to others,
Mm.
because in particular to real estate construction, it is very cutthroat. And I think you have to have a goal in mind and just be patient. You can't go from 0 to 100. It takes time. So many things,
Sure.
so many lessons I've learned. Um, I think just being patient with
Yeah.
yourself,
Very
really,
interesting.
and just keep pushing forward, because you're just gonna, no matter what, you're gonna have obstacles.
Hmm.
I mean, where you just have to really be patient and just keep pushing forward and just keep looking to the future, because it's easy to get caught up in, the mundane, like every day, the stress of having to, deadlines and, um, yes, it really is a numbers thing. I mean,
Hmm.
real estate is a numbers game. It's about the bottom line,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And so sometimes you can get distracted by so many things. And I think it's just important to be patient with yourself.
Very interesting. Well, I really appreciate your time. So thank you so
Thank
much for
you,
taking it.
Jacob.
Thank you
Thank
for
you
coming
so
on.
much for
Absolutely.
having and for creating this platform. It really is just, it's wonderful that you give
Thank
people
you.
this opportunity.
Thank you so much.